Hi, today I want to talk to you about how you use your kick drum or bass drum pedal. So let's get into it. There's a number of ways you can play the pedal. As a beginner, I teach my students to play what's called heel down. Now, heel down is where you put your foot on the foot plate and your heel stays down and you operate the pedal like that. Now, the reason I do that, because if you start playing, which most drummers do, or 80% of drummers heel up, you will never start playing heel down because it's just so much easier to play heel up. Now, why do I say play heel down? Because of balance. Now, when you're first starting, it's quite hard to get the balance of your body correct. So you end up putting your feet nicely firmly planted down. So you've got like a tripod, two legs, and where you're sitting, and you're totally focused and balanced, so you haven't got to worry about that. And when you start doing open hi-hat rhythms, that's when you open the hi-hat. When you're lifting both feet off, it becomes a little bit awkward. So as I say, I recommend doing heel down to start with, and then as you progress, you start doing both. Now, ideally, that's what you want, because when I play, I normally play heel down, and then when I want a bit more power or I want to play louder, I can really use my leg to push that beater into the head. Okay, so there's your beater, this is your head. Again, when you're playing your bass drum or kick drum pedal, you want to have a slight angle on your shin, a slight angle on your seat, and then you should be comfortable, your arms by the side, and then you know your drums are in the right place, because it is really hard to get that right. I've angled mine a little bit, just because if you have it square, that's fine, but some drummers have two bass drums and they're angled, and weirdly, if you do angle it just slightly, it's more comfortable. I don't know why, it just is. So I would just angle it slightly, so it's not dead straight, it's just angled a bit, and that makes it comfortable, because your feet are obviously at those sort of angles, aren't they, rather than that. So, and the same with the left foot. Watch how your leg slopes. It should be the same with the seat, but at the front, again, you want your pedal here, all right? And that's a good positioning for your feet and your legs. Let's have a little look at the pedal itself. This one is called a felt beater. You can get a wooden one, which is obviously made of wood, and you can get a plastic one, so this one could turn, flip round, and they all give a slightly different sound. Not much of a different sound, but again, it can be something you can explore, but as a beginner, I wouldn't worry about it. Just stick it on. Now, when you buy your pedal, there's a few things to note. I wouldn't worry about changing that, because there's kind of set up in the middle. So I would stick with that, practice it as it's set up, so it should be as it comes. The other thing you've got is a double chain or a single chain, and this is called your drive. So a double chain drive will just be a little bit more robust and last a little bit longer. It's not an issue. Most pedals with beginners come with a single chain, absolutely fine. The other thing you can get used to be called a strap drive, which was like a nylon strap. Again, they're really good. And the other one is direct drive, which is a metal strap, which is a piece of metal that's like a link, and that is, again, some people prefer that. Now, it really doesn't matter, and as a beginner, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I just want to go through it so you know. The other thing, this is called the foot plate, and this is important because this is your adjustment. Now, my pedal's quite close to the head, and again, I've just bought this pedal second-hand. I've left it because it just is fine to me, no problem. But you can adjust it by undoing this with a drum key, and then that will bring that further down so it swings a bit more. Again, it's totally up to you what you do. I wouldn't worry too much. The main thing is to just get your foot in the right position. Now, the ideal position is your heel needs to come right to the back where the foot plate is. Now, as a teacher, I know that when you're 10 years old and you've got relatively small feet, that's quite hard to do. So don't worry if your foot goes up to the crease, but don't go any higher, because then it'll make it harder to operate. So again, just put your foot there, and then all you're doing is pushing down, and that's all it is. And when you're doing doubles, my foot, as you can see, just almost comes off the foot plate. Okay, so that's basically how I would use the foot, and the same goes for the left. The hi-hat, as you know, is really, really tricky. It just feels so much harder, and every student I teach has a problem with it for the first few weeks, and they say there's something wrong with it, why isn't it working? And it's because if you're right-handed, your left side is just weaker, unfortunately. So using your left foot is just really alien, and that's why in my drum books I've got specific exercises for your feet, coordination exercises that really, really help. Here's a picture of the book. And as you can see, if you've already bought one, that's fantastic, and you can go to those exercises. They really help, because later on when you start opening the hi-hat, if your left foot's not been used, you're really, really going to struggle. So that is a definite thing to do, is practice your right and your left foot. And just, again, just try and get how I think of it, and again, this might be a little bit advanced, but I'll tell you anyway, is that when you hit the stick comes off naturally, okay? You don't play it like that. And the same with the bass drum. A lot of people, because they play heel up, they call what's called burying the beater. They hold it against the drum, and again, there's no issue with that. I prefer, and I think it gives a clearer sound when recording, to bring the beater off. Okay, and it's again, as a beginner, you want to try and do that, because when you've been playing for a while, it's really hard to not do that. You know, drummers really struggle to get that off, but if you do, again, no issue. Okay, so these are just the recommendations. As a teacher, I try and get people to start, because it's always best to try and start as disciplined as possible, and then you can go your own way. When you're doing a double, again, I kind of almost flick my foot to get it quick. Do you see what I mean? It kind of bounces. This is a little bit awkward to get the rebound, but again, that's more advanced. But really, when you want to start playing, just do nice strokes, and that beater, as I said, like your drumstick, wants to come off. So just you'll feel it when you relax your foot, rather than sort of pushing it and not relaxing. You just want to relax it, and just imagine that that's bouncing back, which is really helping your foot. And then you can tell it's just nice and smooth. And then when you want the power, as I say later on, you can do that. And then there's heel toe, again, another technique, but that's for much more advanced players. You really want to just get that foot working, and especially the left. In the coordination exercises in the book, this sort of thing is so important, because when you're playing a rhythm, your snare and your bass drum needs to be perfectly like you're doing that. Okay, so this is why exercises are very important, because otherwise what happens is doing this kind of thing and it just sounds terrible. So you really want to get that perfect timing. So make sure you practice, as I say in that book, and that will really help. The only other thing you could possibly look for in the pedal is just, again, don't get the cheapest thing you can buy, because it will be awkward to use. You do need to spend sort of £50 or $50 upwards. They go to ridiculous prices, but again, don't get a $15 pedal. It's just not worth it. You'll just make your life difficult when you play. Some of the free pedals you get with the drum kits are actually pretty good. It's just those ones that if you bought a second hand and you look at the pedal and it's just rubbish because it was a £50 drum kit, it's just making your life hard. So try and get a more expensive pedal. Okay, so that's about it really on the pedals. I hope this has been of use, and just as I say, the more you use your foot, the better and the easier it becomes. And this is why these exercises in those books are so important that you do, because it just makes your life easy when you play. Okay, so let's get into the next video. Thanks for watching.